It started with a handbag, but what exploded next was a silent execution disguised as etiquette. On February 14, 2026, a limited edition Balenciaga crocodile embossed clutch, commissioned privately under Zara Tindall's name, was photographed dangling from Meghan Markle's arm in Paris. And in that single flashbulb moment, a war began that no press release would ever confirm. The bag was never meant to exist outside Zara's private order. It was monogrammed, reserved, archived under her profile at Balenciaga's London headquarters, and prepared as the centerpiece for her appearance at the Women in Equine Leadership Gala. And yet, weeks before the gala, it vanished. Officially, a logistical error. Unofficially, the kind of mistake that never happens at that level. Zara remained composed in public. Behind palace doors, insiders whispered she was furious, not about fashion, but about what it symbolized. Then came the Paris sighting. Meghan in all-black Balenciaga, the exact bag. The timing almost surgical. 48 hours after the London gala ended, the image hit executive inboxes. High-level meetings were convened in private. Rumored ambassadorship talks quietly frozen before they could begin. The subject line of an internal memo leaked to industry insiders was brutally concise: contractual freeze. Meghan Markle, no public statement, no scandal headline, just stillness, the kind of corporate silence that screams. And that was the difference. Zara moved behind the scenes, requesting a full internal investigation into how a personalized item booked in her name ended up elsewhere. No tabloids, no interviews, just institutional pressure. Meghan, meanwhile, responded within 24 hours with a glossy teaser for her new lifestyle venture, Love with Meghan, prominently featuring the now infamous handbag. Insiders called it brazen, a show of strength, a declaration that attention was still hers to command. But attention is not the same as power. As whispers spread, fashion houses began distancing themselves. Invitations slowed. Ambassadorship lists quietly excluded her name. Princess Anne, silent but unmistakably present, reportedly advised Balenciaga to handle the matter with dignity and integrity. Translation: fix it without spectacle. And when Anne reactivated a dormant advisory group to strategically elevate Zara, Lady Louise Windsor, and Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, as modern faces of the monarchy, it was done without a single press conference. Policy, not performance. That was the counterstrike. Meghan's team pivoted to online insinuations of misogynistic sabotage. Zara attended the Cartier British Polo Awards in a pristine white Victoria Beckham suit, declined a major Harper's Bazaar UK cover, and let restraint speak louder than rebuttal. The contrast became impossible to ignore. One woman posting, the other positioning, one amplifying grievance, the other consolidating legacy. Behind the glamour, cracks widened. Reports surfaced of renewed scrutiny toward the Archewell Foundation by the U.S. Internal Revenue Service following whistleblower concerns about grant distribution discrepancies. Tyler Perry, once a steadfast ally, allegedly withdrew financial backing. A planned Paris press tour faltered. Invitations dwindled. And when Meghan attempted to rally Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie with a strategic Mayfair dinner aimed at orchestrating a joint public defense, the effort collapsed. Beatrice refused. Eugenie arrived late, stayed less than 40 minutes, and left silently. Meanwhile, Catherine stunned at a London charity dinner in a reconstructed ivory gown first worn by Queen Elizabeth II in 1969. A visual reminder of continuity without commentary. No statements, just symbolism. Then came the so-called Windsor Files bluff, a sealed letter hinting at exposing archived correspondence if defamatory implications continue. Palace response? Ignore it. Silence again. The kind that closes doors without slamming them. The defining moment arrived when a journalist asked Zara about Meghan's Instagram montage captioned, "Real class has no lineage." Zara paused and replied, "Some of us ride horses. I favor the former." Cool. Cutting. Final. By February 22nd, Meghan was telling a U.S. podcast, "I believe silence sometimes is just complicity." 4 days later, on February 26th, the R's formally began examining Archewell's grant distribution practices after a whistleblower complaint. Not a palace retaliation, a federal one. And that is how a handbag became a referendum on power. No screaming matches, no televised confrontation, just a series of closed meetings, withdrawn contracts, strategic placements, and one cold corporate memo that shifted the map of influence. The monarchy did not announce a victory. It never does. It simply absorbed the shock, recalibrated, and let legacy outlast noise. Somewhere between Paris flashbulbs and London policy reviews, the crocodile clutch stopped being leather and hardware and became something else entirely, a symbol of how quickly access can turn into exile. The doors did not slam. They clicked, and in elite circles, that sound echoes longer than applause. It began with a handbag, but what detonated behind palace walls was not about fashion, not about leather, not even about luxury. It was about territory, hierarchy, and a line that insiders swear was never meant to be crossed. On February 14, 2026, a limited edition Balenciaga cash crocodile embossed clutch, privately commissioned under Zara Tindall's name and prepared as the glittering centerpiece for her appearance at the Women in Equine Leadership Gala, was photographed hanging from Meghan Markle's arm in Paris. And in that single frozen frame, the temperature inside elite royal and fashion circles dropped below zero. This was not a random boutique purchase. This was a bag that sources insist had been reserved, archived, and monogrammed under Zara's private order at Balenciaga's London headquarters, meant to symbolize her quiet evolution into a modern title-free but institutionally anchored royal force. It vanished days before the gala under the polite corporate excuse of a logistical error, a phrase so smooth it almost glitters, yet so hollow it echoes. No police report, no formal complaint, just silence. Zara, outwardly composed, said nothing publicly, but insiders claim that behind closed doors she understood immediately that this was not about an accessory, it was about access. Then, weeks later, Meghan appeared in a chic left bank office in Paris, dressed head to toe in black Balenciaga, and there it was, the exact bag. The same hardware, the same rare crocodile embossing, dangling with almost theatrical precision, and those images did not simply circulate, they detonated. Within 48 hours of the London Gala's close, photographs were reportedly forwarded to Balenciaga's top executives, triggering a series of private emergency meetings that were never meant to see daylight. Rumors had been quietly swirling that Meghan was in advanced talks to become the face of Balenciaga's eco-luxury expansion, a high-profile ambassadorship that would have cemented her return to elite fashion dominance, but those whispers were abruptly smothered before they could solidify. On February 15, 2026, shortly after midnight in Paris, a senior leadership memo was distributed internally, later leaked to industry insiders, confirming that all pending and informal agreements with the Duchess of Sussex were suspended pending a review of product access and brand alignment. The subject line was mercilessly brief: contractual freeze. Meghan Markle. No press conference. No scandal statement. Just the soft, lethal click of a corporate door closing. And here is where the divergence in strategy became impossible to ignore. Zara did not rage. She did not brief tabloids. Instead, her private secretary reportedly submitted a firm but restrained request to Balenciaga's executive board, demanding a full internal investigation into how a personalized, privately commissioned item ended up elsewhere. It was a question wrapped in courtesy, but sharpened by institutional weight. Meghan's reaction, however, was swift and public. Less than 24 hours after fashion insiders began whispering about the handbag irregularity, her team released a glossy, cinematic teaser for a new lifestyle venture titled Love with Meghan, featuring slow-motion shots of her in Paris mood board sessions, the now infamous bag prominently displayed, as if daring observers to connect the dots. To some, it was a masterstroke of defiance. To others, breathtakingly brazen. An experienced fashion publicist allegedly remarked that the rollout did not feel accidental. It felt like a power move, a declaration that even without formal royal backing, she still commanded the spotlight. But spotlight and sanction are not the same currency. Quietly, the mood shifted. Insiders at multiple European fashion houses began insisting she was not officially invited to certain front-row appearances at Paris Fashion Week. Invitations that once poured in began to thin. Ambassadorship lists no longer featured her name. Meanwhile, Princess Anne, known for decades of disciplined public service and a radar for impropriety, reportedly stepped in behind the scenes, advising Balenciaga to handle the matter with dignity and integrity. Translation, according to palace observers, resolve this without spectacle, but resolve it decisively. The monarchy, they say, does not issue ultimatums, it remembers. And when it remembers, it acts in policy, not press. As Meghan's team began hinting online at unnamed institutions spreading misogynistic narratives and orchestrating sabotage to keep her out of luxury circles, Zara made a different kind of statement by saying absolutely nothing. She appeared at the Cartier British Polo Awards in Gloucestershire in a pristine white Victoria Beckham suit from the designer's upcoming collection, a subtle nod to British fashion and lineage that fashion editors described as controlled elegance. When Harper's Bazaar UK reportedly approached her for a major cover story, she declined, citing family commitments. No retaliation, no counter-accusation, just complete composure so deliberate it became deafening, and that composure carried institutional backing. Palace sources suggest that Princess Anne quietly initiated a family-only review of how individuals connected to the royal orbit were engaging in commercial partnerships, a move that conveniently coincided with growing murmurs about the alleged misuse of royal associations in business negotiations. It was not framed as punishment. It was framed as protocol. Anne, a longtime advisor, allegedly observed, prefers systems over statements. She lets the structure shift around you rather than raising her voice. At the same time, insiders claim she reactivated a dormant advisory group focused on modernizing the monarchy's public image, strategically positioning Zara, Lady Louise Windsor, and Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, as disciplined contemporary faces of royal duty. While Meghan amplified her narrative digitally, Anne was allegedly recalibrating legacy from within. And somewhere in that recalibration, something subtle but seismic occurred. Elite circles began recalculating risk. Because in luxury environments, discretion is currency, and when whispers of aggressive tactics or institutional friction circulate, even the most glamorous presence can become a liability. The handbag, once a symbol of aspiration, had morphed into a litmus test for alignment. Who belonged? Who was protected? Who was frozen out? No official declaration ever labeled Meghan blacklisted, but insiders insist that what followed felt indistinguishable from it. A series of paused conversations, cooled negotiations, and doors that no longer opened on command. What began as a misplaced purse had escalated into a referendum on power, and the most devastating blows were delivered not through headlines but through absence. No invitations. No confirmations, no announcements, just silence that felt strategic, coordinated, and final. And yet, if this was truly the end, why did the tension continue to throb beneath the surface? Why did the narrative refuse to settle? Because in the rarefied air of royalty and high fashion, nothing is ever just about a bag, and no silence is ever truly empty.